So today we are going to be talking about variables, and we're going to be talking about if statement. And we're going to use those two things to create a game. It's a number guessing game. And we're going to start really simple, especially if this is new to you. We're going to make a very basic version of this. Then I'm going to show you how you can add in some different aspects and different things to it to make it look what I have, or something even more detailed, even more creative that you can come up with. You can have a number between 1 to 10, and they're asking if I can guess it. So I'm going to put something, an input in here, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's going to become a variable. And the cat tells me that it's too high. So guess again. All right, I'm going to guess 3. Actually, I should have let you all guess this, but I do want it to end a certain way, so I'll go ahead and put my guesses in. So that time it told me my guess was too low, so I'm going to, knowing what the answer is, I'm going to put in the correct answer, so you can see that once the correct answer is given, it changes the screen, it tells you great job, and it has these different things that happen. So this is just one example of what we are going to work on. So some of you, if you're familiar to code, may be familiar with these principles, and for some of you, it may be new. Within coding, there's something referred to as a variable. And one way you can think of a variable is it's sort of like a box. So if you have a box, let's say you're wanting to carry some things, you're going to put some items in that box. That box is going to hold those items, and then you can move it around, move it to another room maybe where you need to take it and get things out of the box. But that box is storing those items. So a variable is just something that can store data. So today when we talk about a variable, we're going to talk about something that's storing numbers. So we're going to have a number that's stored as a variable, and then we can retrieve it. So you put it in that box, and then it can be pulled out later when you need it. So variables is one of the elements that we are going to use today. Creating that box, that a number, that data can be stored in and used later. The other thing that we will be doing a lot of today are if statements. An if statement is a way of making a decision. In ours, it's going to be like, is this variable equal to a certain amount? So there's some condition, something. And if it's true, then we have some code that's going to happen. And if it's not true, then something else is going to happen. So this is a really common thing that is used in code and is very important. They're a way of a computer being able to make a decision. So it knows that if one thing is true, then a certain section of code happens. And if it's not true, if it's a false statement, then either some other code or maybe nothing happens. So if you are new to Scratch, what you want to do is go to the website scratch.mit.edu. So once you're on this page, you just want to go to where it says create, and that is going to open up a new project. Here on the left-hand side are all of our blocks of code. Instead of having to type out syntax or type the code out, you're dragging and dropping blocks. And you'll see there's lots of different categories of blocks, from motion to the way it looks to sounds, all sorts of different things. Over here on the right-hand side, where you see this cat in a white box, this is where your code will actually run, where you'll see the animation, see the game we're creating, that sort of thing. Directly underneath it, you'll see this is your sprite. You can have multiple sprites. We're going to stick with one today, but you can always add more to your game. A sprite is basically a character. Then in the right-hand corner down at the bottom here, there's choose a backdrop. Let's all start by choosing a backdrop and choosing a sprite. You're going to see this little button here that says choose a backdrop. And if you click on it, there's all sorts of backdrops that appear. Along the top, you can see different categories for the backdrops, or you can just scroll through. I'm going to go ahead and do this brick wall. And now we can choose a sprite. If you here, it looks like a little outline of a cat's face. If you hover over that, it says choose a sprite. You can click on it, and there are all sorts of sprites that appear. So now we have our backdrop and we have our sprite. So the first thing we need to do is to add some code to the sprite. So this is really important. If you have multiple characters or if you have a backdrop and a character, you want to make sure you're putting the code on the right place. So you can add code that goes for the backdrop, and you can add code. Each individual sprite can have its own section of code. In this white box here in the middle, you see in the upper right-hand corner of that box, I can see a kind of faded version of my cat. And that means that anything I'm putting in this box right here is code associated with the cat. We want to go to our kind of yellowish color here that says events. There has to be something that lets the program know that the code is starting. So for us, I'm going to choose when the flag is clicked. For this one, we all need to start with when the flag is clicked. When the flag is clicked, maybe we want our character to be in a certain position. So my sprite here kind of looks like he's up in the air. So I'm going to physically click on him and move him. I want this cat to be right here, like he's on the sidewalk there, walking down. Click and hold and drag your sprite to wherever you'd like them to be on the backdrop. If you go to your blue code, so this code here that says motion, you should see a block of code that says go to X and Y, and there's values there. And if you notice, watch that block as I'm moving my cat around. It changes. So that block is updating for wherever I'm moving my cat. So let's say I wanted the cat way up here. Now that those X and Y values are different. But I'm gonna put my cat back on the sidewalk so it looks like it's actually walking down. And I see my X and Y values are 33 and negative 33. All right, so I'm going to drag this block over and it's going to snap underneath that when flag is clicked. So that just tells me every time I start my code, that cat is going to be in the right position. We want to all go to this kind of light blue colored section of blocks. It's called sensing. And this is where, sensing is where you can start to have it make decisions or notice things, maybe, if you will. So there's one that says, ask what's your name and wait. So let's all take that block and drag it over. So this is how you get your sprite to ask a question that someone that's playing a game can answer. I don't want it to ask what's your name. I want it to give me a value. So you can type whatever you would like in here for your specific game. Maybe you have an idea. Maybe you wanted to guess a number between 1 to 100. I'm going to type in here and say, I'm thinking of a number between 1 to 10. It's going to prompt the user, whoever's playing the game, and it's going to give them a little block that they can type in and answer. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the green flag so you can see that. I hit my green flag, the sprite is in the right spot, it brings up a little word bubble, asks exactly what I typed in that white oval shape, and then it brings up a little box that I can type a number into. I've created a variable. I've asked a question, and now there is a variable because a user would input, whoever's playing the game puts in a number and a variable is created. If I go to the orange ones, I can pull out an if statement. So basically, I have a number I'm thinking of. I want them to guess a number. So there's two things. Either the number is true, what they guess is correct, or I pulled out an if statement. And what I want to know is I want to know if their answer is correct, then what happened? I'm going to go to this green operators. And there is a hexagon shaped little block here that says, it has a blank space and it says this blank area equals 50. So this is just an opportunity for you to set up an equation of something that's true. So in my sensing, right underneath where I asked a question, there's the answer. So a variable named answer is created whenever you ask a question. So I'm going to drag that over and you see it fits into that circular shape there in that green hexagon block. All these blocks, that's a really great way for you to be able to get an idea of what goes. They have different shapes like that. So answer fits nicely inside that hexagon shape. So what I want to do is I want to know if their answer is correct. So in my case, I'm choosing the number 7. Maybe you want to pick a different number, but I'm going to put that in. So answer equals 7. So I have my if statement, which is going to help the program to make a decision. So if the answer equals 7, then something's going to happen. Most of the code that we're going to use is going to fall within this using the variable, using those equations, and using if block. This if block that I have here, whatever I put inside of it is what's going to happen if the person were to get the correct answer. I'm just going to have the cat say, great job. So if you go over to your blocks and you go to the one that says looks, it's a purplish color. There's a block that says say hello for 2 seconds. I'm going to drag that block and it's gonna snap right inside that if block. So if that statement is true, that their answer equals 7, then what's inside that block is gonna be what happens. But once you have this done, you basically have a very simple version of the game created. So the next thing you could do is maybe you wanted to do something different if the answer is not correct. Specifically, you might want to do something to kind of help the person guess. I'm going to pop in 2 more of these if blocks. So pop in one here, and then pop in one right below it. So we're basically going to have 3 if statements, because really those are the only choices. Either the answer is the correct answer, the answer is greater than the correct answer, or the answer is less than the correct answer. So I'm going to go back to my green operators, and you'll see that there's one that says equal to it, one that says less than, and one that says greater than. So I'm going to pop in the greater than into one of the if statements. And I'm going to pop in the less than in another one. All right, so I have 3 of these set up now. One says if answer equals 7. One says if answer is greater than 7. And one says if answer is less than 7. All right, so I wanted to say different things depending on if the answer is too high, too low, or correct. We've already got what happens if it's correct. It says great job. But let's pop in that same say hello for 2 seconds block. Let's pop that into each of those if statements. So if the answer is greater than 7, if it's too large, we can say too high. If the answer is less than 7, we can say too low. This is a good thing to remember when you're working on code, sometimes just starting with the very basics. Now, there's a lot more that I want to add to this and that we're going to work on. I'd like to add maybe some sounds or animations or have it only give me a certain number of tries. But one thing that's really important with code is just starting with making sure that your basic thing that you want to happen is working. The first thing I want to do to make my game a little more complicated is I want to have it only be able to guess a few times. Usually when you play a guessing game, maybe you only have a few chances. So we could set up a repeat loop to where it does that same thing over and over, where it asks the question over and over so that you can make multiple guesses. So if you go over to your orange blocks, the ones that say control, there is something that says repeat, and it says 10, but we can change that value. So let's pull that and watch this. What you need to do is see how I kind of hovered it there between the go to X and the ask a question. And you can kind of see a shadow of it, how it's going to have all that stuff go inside the block. That's what you want it to do. You want all that code from the question and those if statements to go inside of that repeat block. So I'm going to let go of it and let you see how that repeat block is there, and all of your code, or most of your code, is inside that block. Everything that's inside of that block is going to happen over and over again. Now I'm going to change my number to 3 because that's pretty typical of maybe a guessing game. They give you 3 tries, but you could certainly make yours be however many tries you would like it to. All right, so now what's going to happen is when I run this code, it's going to ask me that same question and just what I did before, but I'm going to get 3 tries. The way we have it set up right now is no matter what you put in, it just repeats all of that code 3 times. So I could just keep putting, and it's going to tell me great job each time. I don't want this to just kind of keep going and going. If I get the correct answer on the first try, you don't normally, in a guessing game like that, ask the person to answer again because they got it right. So what we can do is, if the person gets it right, we can just go ahead and stop the game there. It says great job and then the game is over. Whereas if the person gets it wrong, they get another try and another try, right? So I am going to go into our orange control blocks where if you scroll down, there's a block here that says stop all, and that just ends your code. So I'm going to drag that and drop it underneath where it says great job. So if the answer is 7, if what the person puts in is 7, then it doesn't matter if it's the first time, the second time, it's going to say great job and stop everything. I want to show you some other fun ways that you can add in costume changes, backdrop changes, sounds, different things to make this game a little more fun and interactive. You can change the way the cat looks. You can change the costume, it's called, of the cat. Right next to where it says code, there's something that says costumes. I'm going to click on that. And right now there's 2 costumes of this cat. And the reason why they have these is, as you see when I'm clicking on them really quickly, you can almost make the cat look like it's walking. So that's really good for some animations and things that you do. But I thought it might be kind of fun to switch up the cat a little. So I'm going to kind of quickly show you how I do it. But if you right click on that cat, you can make a duplicate of it. So now I've got my costume 1, and there was already a costume 2. So when I duplicated it, it became costume 3. Let's just do something really simple first. I'm going to add a little circle behind the cat, and I'm going to hit the button here that says back. So there's like a circle behind it. But I just want to show you how you can change the costume depending on if the answer is correct or not. If you go up to the blue looks, there's something here that says switch costume. So when my game starts, so when the flag is clicked, I want it to be costume 1. That was my original costume. So when I click the flag, it goes back to my original cat, what I want. But I'm going to add a switch costumes thing for my if block that has the answer correct. Underneath where it says great job, I'm gonna snap in a block there that says switch costume. My costume should be costume 3. So my cat is in the original costume, I put in the correct answer, and now my cat changes costume. So I don't know. The purple circle was just something simple just to kind of show you how you can add in and switch costumes. Another thing that can kind of be fun to do is to add sounds. So I won't play around with this too much, but I just wanted to show you that pinkish light purple color is where you could add in sounds. So maybe when it starts, I want my cat to meow. Now there's certain sounds associated with each sprite. So depending on what sprite you pick, there are sounds that are programmed for that specific. Or you can record your own. So you could record your voice saying, great job, and play that. Maybe you want to add a little sound that happens if you get the answer correctly, like it meows, or like I said, you could record yourself saying great job. But if you remember from my game, not only did my character change, but the backdrop changed. So I wanted to show you how you could do that as well. And I knew we were going to have to quickly go through some of these things, but these are all elements or things that you can add in just to make your program a little more entertaining, exciting, fun for someone who's playing it. So I'm going to go to my backdrops again, and I am going to pick a second one. I'm just going to pick this blue sky here. So you can only have one backdrop going at a time, but if I select it, you'll see in a second how it kind of stores that. So when I start my game, if I go back up to that purplish color one that says looks, there's something that says switch backdrop. So when I start my game, I want it to be the wall. That was that wall that I used. But see how both of my backdrops that I've selected are here now. So when it starts, I want it to be that brick wall. So I'll click that. But if I get the answer correct, not only do I want the cat to switch costumes, but I want it to change to the blue sky. So when I hit my green run, I forgot I had the meow, that kind of scared me, but when I hit my green run, I have my brick, I have the cat asking the question, I'm getting multiple chances to answer it, and if I get the answer correct, not only does the cat change, but the backdrop changes as well. Like I said, there's a lot more that you can do to the game. Adding sounds can make the game really fun, changing the backdrops. Maybe you change the backdrop for each time, like if the answer's too low, the cat is in a different, or the sprite is in a different environment versus if it's too high. There's so many things you could do that start to play along with it. All right, so I know that was kind of quick. An hour goes by really quickly, quicker than you think it's going to, but hopefully everyone was able to get the basic of the game set up. And like I said, there's so much more you could keep working on and keep doing it to make it really fun. So thank you all so much for joining us. We hope you have a rest of the good evening and enjoy continuing to work on your game. Bye.